Manchester United were unstoppable under the guise of Sir Alex Ferguson, clinching a staggering 13 titles in 21 Premier League seasons. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and as Sir Alex concluded his legendary tenure by guiding United to their 20th league title in 2013, little did fans know that his retirement would mark the start of a turbulent era for the club. Since 2013, United have spent £40 million to hire and fire 5 permanent managers, but have had 0 Premier League or Champions League trophies to show for their staggering investment, which includes another £1.43 billion on transfers, all while running up a debt of nearly £1 billion. They have finished outside the top 4 on 5 occasions and lost as many league home games as they did during Ferguson's entire 26-year reign. An elite club has never looked more clueless than the present-day United. This is the tale of Manchester United's decade of managerial failure.
David Moyes from July the 1st will become the new manager of Manchester United, recommended to the Manchester United board by Sir Alex Ferguson.
This image of David Moyes sitting in Sir Alex's former office would become the meme that summed up his short-lived tenure at Old Trafford, accompanied by the caption, "I have no idea what I'm doing." Despite being endorsed by Sir Alex himself, Moyes, known for his pragmatic style of play at Everton, struggled to meet the lofty expectations at United. He managed only 1 league win against a top 6 team. In away games at Old Trafford, both City and Liverpool scored 3 goals and kept a clean sheet, while West Brom and Everton scored their first victories there in 35 and 21 years respectively. The once revered Theatre of Dreams had turned into a house of horrors for the home team. Moyes soon lost the confidence of his players, and United subsequently ended the season without European football for the first time since 1980. Perhaps things would have been different if Moyes had been luckier in the League Cup, where United lost in the semi-finals to Sunderland on penalties, or if they had beaten Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarter-final. His departure, just 50 games into a 6-year contract, would mark a new era for the club characterized by reactive leadership. The club's trajectory may have taken a completely different path had its then chief executive, Ed Woodward, succeeded in luring Jurgen Klopp from Borussia Dortmund. But Klopp wasn't convinced and ultimately opted to join their rivals Liverpool. Veteran Louis van Gaal was selected as the next best option. Unlike Moyes, who had been too green, Van Gaal had experience spanning several decades, and it was hoped that the club's stature wouldn't overwhelm him, especially considering his charismatic nature.
A lot of times I use the word horny to my players.
However much he disliked the commercial machine that was United, it allowed him to spend £282 million over 2 years, which, accounting for inflation in the transfer market, would equate to over £400 million in today's terms. But despite that investment, Van Gaal's team played a dull, sideways-oriented style of football. He attributes this to not being able to get the players he wanted, but his approach resembled that of a former PE teacher, stifling players' creativity and imposing his rigid philosophy. Van Gaal managed to outlast Moyes by securing Champions League qualification in his first season, but he wasn't immune to embarrassments similar to those his predecessor endured. The 4-0 defeat against League One side MK Dons stands out as one of the lowest points for United in the post-Ferguson era. In his second summer at the club, Van Gaal faced a mass exodus of players who had become discontent with his methods. Ed Woodward also faced embarrassment after boasting about the marquee signing of Bastian Schweinsteiger. However, the German was past his prime and started only 13 league matches during his underwhelming 2-year tenure at the club. Van Gaal's position became strained in his second season as Woodward and the Glazers allowed rumors about his future to swirl. As United's form declined, Jose Mourinho's availability became the elephant in the room. The enduring legacy of Van Gaal remains the emergence of Marcus Rashford. Despite being thrust into the spotlight during an injury crisis at the club, the 18-year-old's back-to-back brace of goals gave him a fairy tale introduction to professional football, and the teen quickly became United's new hope with club record scorer Wayne Rooney on the way out. Winning the FA Cup was not enough to save Van Gaal though, and on the very same day the team celebrated at Wembley, Woodward dismissed him, believing that his pragmatism wasn't the right formula for United. Money was now worth more than trophies, and the commercial beast Van Gaal feared had chewed him up and spat him back out.
Alleen Manchester United is een commerciële club.
The hiring of Mourinho by United was largely in response to City's signing of Pep Guardiola. While there were doubts about Mourinho's suitability for the club, he silenced his critics by winning 3 trophies in his first season: the Community Shield, League Cup, and Europa League, on top of Champions League qualification for the following season. During their Europa League title celebration, he even told his players to show 3 fingers to remind everyone just how many trophies they'd won. This was vintage Jose.
My team was the worst team in the world, where I felt sometimes that I was the worst manager in the world. We managed to win 3 trophies.
There's no denying that he's a serial winner, but throughout his time at United, he faced the challenge of matching his playing style with results. United finished second in the following season, and despite ending up 19 points behind City, Mourinho still calls this achievement one of the greatest in his career. The Portuguese's us against them approach had a shelf life though, and he gradually alienated himself from the dressing room and boardroom with his unpredictable behavior. He ranted for more than 12 minutes defending his record after being criticized for getting knocked out of the Champions League by Sevilla in the last 16. In the aftermath, he addressed his players, urging them to mature as he explained that the club's early exit should not have come as a surprise given their recent track record in the competition. This, as Mourinho explained, was football heritage. Behind the scenes, Mourinho and Woodward's working relationship deteriorated. Disagreements arose, such as the decision to sign Victor Lindelof instead of Virgil van Dijk as a cost-cutting measure. They also clashed over Anthony Martial's future in Mourinho's final summer at the club. Contradictorily, Woodward had no issues when approving a £500,000 per week contract for Alexis Sanchez, whose best performance at United came on the piano. Mourinho's popularity finally hit rock bottom when his feud with Pogba went public. The pair were captured in a tense exchange during training, arguing about an Instagram post, and the would-be heroes had turned into soap opera villains. The 3-1 away defeat against Liverpool was the final blow for Mourinho, leading to his sacking at a cost of £14 million and leaving behind a shroud of toxicity within the club.
Rashford against Buffon. It's Rashford! And Manchester United have produced the impossible!
That night in Paris was the clincher for Ole Gunnar Solskjær to become permanent manager for United. Against all odds, his injury-plagued side had become the first to overturn a 2-0 first-leg home defeat in the Champions League, reminiscent of the glory days under Sir Alex. Following that game, he experienced an incredibly successful run as caretaker manager, winning 14 out of 17 games. The nostalgia and rediscovery of United's traditions, coupled with the monumental victory in Europe, led some to believe that he was the reincarnation of Sir Alex. But United's honeymoon phase eventually came to an end as they struggled to maintain their winning momentum, suffering 8 defeats in their final 12 games and ultimately finishing 6th in the league. Despite this downturn, Solskjær was still given the United job permanently. In hindsight, the Norwegian outperformed his CV, though his lack of credentials would soon catch up with him. While his legendary status afforded him patience when results were poor, his tactical approach lacked structure, even if his team's attacking flair was reminiscent of United's glory days. To his credit, Solskjær was the club's first manager in ages to establish a clear strategy in the transfer market, as he sought to create a counter-attacking team with a core of young English players. Large sums paid for Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka turned out to be expensive mistakes, but the signing of Bruno Fernandes was a revelation, arguably their best signing in the last 10 years. As poor results fueled frustrations among supporters, their focus turned towards the Glazer family, with the deteriorating state of Old Trafford symbolizing the neglect of the club. Their involvement in the failed European Super League further intensified fan discontent, with even Ed Woodward stepping down from his position after disagreeing with the Glazers' plan. Solskjær, despite bringing some stability to the club, eventually became referred to as the nearly man for failing to win any major trophies. He fell short in 4 semi-finals and 1 final, and while his team qualified for the Champions League in every full season, they never progressed past the group stages. When the opportunity to sign a 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo arose a few months later, the temptation of commercial revenue and social media clicks was too much for the Glazers to turn down. The emotion of his return to the club that brought him to the spotlight was all-consuming. Much like with Solskjær's appointment, nostalgia ruled the day, and United became lost in tales of yesterday as Ronaldo's playing style meant the manager had to rethink his whole approach. The present reality became ugly as thrashings by Liverpool and Watford, yes Watford, saw off Solskjær, who had eventually lost control of the wheel. Erik Ten Hag took charge of United after the club's worst season in the Premier League era, following the disastrous Ralf Rangnick experiment. Rangnick's short-lived tenure exposed the inadequacies of United's structure and the significant challenges that lay ahead for Ten Hag. However, by swiftly dealing with Ronaldo's departure, making astute signings, and revitalizing underperforming players like Rashford, the Dutchman has managed to rise to the challenge. While setbacks, including a devastating 7-0 loss at Anfield, have occurred, United have consistently responded. The 2-0 victory over Newcastle in the Carabao Cup ended the club's 6-year trophy drought, and again, there was an unfamiliar sense of something special brewing at United. However, Old Trafford still harbors lingering uncertainty beyond the manager's control. Ten Hag knows that winning the Carabao Cup alone isn't enough, and if that proves to be the extent of his success, he too may be left behind. He seemingly had United back on an upward trajectory last season, but he has encountered difficulties in this campaign. The team's last place finish in their Champions League group and their current position outside the European qualification places are causes for concern. Today's United find themselves deeply mired in futility, enduring their worst start to a season in over 30 years, while also grappling with many off-field issues. There is a glimmer of hope though, as Sir Jim Ratcliffe has recently acquired a 25% stake in the club, providing sporting control and a $300 million investment. While not the complete buyout many fans desired, this deal should inject fresh impetus into the club's long-term strategy and mark the first outside investment under the Glazers. Sustaining the success of Ferguson was always going to be tough, but few people predicted United's drop-off to be just as dramatic as it has turned out. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more football news, stories, and insights. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.